The shocking truth. Tracy discovers Monica's will reveals Ronnie's true identity as her lost sister. After weeks of mounting tension and suspicion, Tracy Quartermain's investigation into Monica's mysterious will has unveiled one of the most stunning revelations in Port Charles history. What began as Tracy's fierce determination to protect her family's interests transformed into a heart-wrenching discovery. Ronnie Bard, the woman who appeared in Port Charles claiming to be Monica's sister, is actually Tracy's own lost sister, a sibling separated from the family for over 50 years. The discovery that changed everything. The revelation began when Tracy found Monica's authentic will tucked away among her late sister-in-law's personal effects. Where everyone else had seen a forged document benefiting an outsider, Tracy recognized the truth embedded in Monica's carefully chosen words. The will contained references only a true member of the family would know, intimate details about family history, specific properties, and personal remembrances that sparked Tracy's memory of a childhood she thought long forgotten. As Tracy carefully reviewed the documents, a series of clues began to align. References to the sister lost before we began and mentions of searching for you all these years were hidden within seemingly innocent provisions. Dates in the margins matched with periods in Tracy's youth when her parents had spoken of a tragedy, a younger sister taken away, lost to the foster care system during a chaotic period in the family's history. Tracy's hands trembled as she held the will. She pulled out her phone and called Ned immediately. "I need you to pull some records," she said, her voice tight. The adoption records from 1974. Mom and Dad had another child, a daughter we never talk about. Hours of searching through old documentation, medical records, and sealed adoption files revealed the impossible truth. The girl placed into foster care in North Carolina 50 years ago had grown up to become Ronnie Bard. The connection that seemed so improbable when Ronnie first arrived became undeniably clear through a cascade of matching details, birthmarks, medical histories, even the unusual talent for gardening that had mystified the Quartermains for decades. A sister beyond Monica. While Ronnie's relationship to Monica had been established before her arrival in Port Charles, no one, not even Ronnie herself, knew the deeper truth. Ronnie was not just Monica's younger sister through their parents' later union. She was Tracy's sister, full sister, the younger child born to their parents during a turbulent time, a period the family never discussed, a tragedy never fully explained. When Tracy finally confronted Ronnie with this discovery, the emotional impact was seismic. Tracy found Ronnie packing her belongings in the Quartermain mansion, preparing to leave after the fallout from the forged will scheme had damaged her relationships with virtually everyone in the household. "Wait," Tracy said, standing in the doorway of the guest room. Her voice was different, not the sharp, imperious tone Ronnie had come to expect, but something softer, more vulnerable. Ronnie looked up, her eyes red from crying. "I don't think there's anything left to say, Tracy. I've already cost your family enough." "Your real family," Tracy interrupted, walking into the room. She held out the will. "Read this." The actual will. Not Martin's fake version. The real one Monica left. Ronnie took it with confusion, her eyes scanning the pages. "I don't understand." It says the house goes to you. That's not new information. You've already won." "That's not what I want you to see," Tracy said quietly. She pointed to a specific passage. "Look at this line. To my beloved sister-in-law Tracy, I entrust our family home, the repository of all our memories, knowing that she will understand what this means. She has always known the truth about family, about loss, about the bonds that transcend blood and time. I hope she finally finds peace, and in that peace, finally finds what was lost." Ronnie read the words, confusion still written across her face. "Monica left you the house. I still don't see the bonds that transcend blood and time," Tracy repeated. She pulled out the adoption records, the medical documentation, the sealed files she'd uncovered. "We're not just sisters by marriage, Ronnie. We share the same parents. We're blood sisters. You were born into the Quartermain family." The room fell silent. Ronnie slowly sank onto the edge of the bed, the papers falling from her fingers. That's impossible. My case file says I was born to unmarried parents, that I was put up for adoption as an infant. It was supposed to be confidential, a closed adoption. Our parents were never married, Tracy explained, sitting beside her. There was a scandal one that would have destroyed the family reputation at the time. You were born, and after some complicated arrangements, you were placed in foster care in Durham, North Carolina. Our parents were told it was temporary, but then there was a fire at the orphanage, records were lost, and by the time they tried to find you, you had been transferred to another home. They searched for years, but it was as if you'd disappeared into the system. Why didn't they ever find me? Ronnie's voice was barely a whisper. Different names, Tracy said. Different social security numbers. The orphanage lost records in the fire. By the time our mother passed, the search had gone cold. She spent her last years wondering what happened to her youngest daughter. And then when her father died, the trail grew even more distant. The moment of recognition. What had been confusion transformed into understanding, then into a profound, almost unbearable emotional reckoning. Ronnie looked at Tracy with new eyes, not seeing the sharp-tongued woman who had insulted her at Monica's crypt, but recognizing something deeper, a resemblance she'd never noticed before. The same sharp cheekbones, the same determined set to her jaw, the same way they both tilted their heads when thinking. How long have you known? Ronnie asked. Since I found Monica's will, Tracy said. It was the references, the way she described family bonds, the way she mentioned the lost one. Monica knew. Somehow, she knew. Ronnie stood abruptly and walked to the window, looking out at the Port Charles skyline. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 5 decades of unknowing. I spent my entire life wondering who I was. Who I really was. My foster parents. They were never unkind, but they were distant. I always felt like I didn't belong anywhere. When I finally found Monica, when I learned I had a real family, I thought maybe I'd finally found my place. You have, Tracy said, standing beside her. You were our place long before you knew it. Our missing piece. But how can that be? Ronnie turned to face her. After everything that's happened? Martin's scheme, the forged will, the way I was manipulated. How can you look at me as anything but a stranger who brought chaos to your family? Tracy's expression softened. Because I've had 50 years to wonder what happened to the little girl I barely remember. I was only 7 when you were born. I recall fragmented images of Bassinet, our mother crying, adults speaking in hushed voices. And then you were gone, and no one ever explained it. We were just told to forget. But I couldn't forget. Deep down, I always felt like something was missing from our family. And now I understand why. A reunion decades in the making. Over the next several hours, Tracy and Ronnie sat together as Monica's will became more than just a legal document. It became a bridge across 50 years of separation. Monica, it seemed, had been searching for Ronnie too, sustained by the letters the two sisters had exchanged over recent years. When Monica finally found Ronnie again, she'd quickly updated her will, ensuring that the discovery of their true family connection would eventually lead Tracy to understand what had been lost and, perhaps, what could be found. Monica knew the whole time. Ronnie realized. She was trying to tell us something. She was trying to bring us home, Tracy said. All of us. The conversation shifted from the shock of the revelation to the desperate desire to understand the life Ronnie had lived without them. Tracy listened as her sister described her difficult years in foster care in Durham, the struggles to educate herself, the loneliness that had defined much of her existence. But she also heard about Ronnie's resilience, her determination to build a life despite the odds, her eventual success as a community college instructor. You didn't need us, Tracy said quietly. You became yourself without us. But I wanted to need you, Ronnie replied, tears finally spilling over. I wanted to belong somewhere, to someone. As the afternoon light began to fade, Tracy reached for Ronnie's hand. We need to tell the family. Michael, Brooklyn, Ned. They need to know. Our family, Ronnie. Your family. For the first time since arriving in Port Charles, Ronnie smiled not the uncertain, carefully constructed smile she'd worn as a stranger trying to be accepted, but a genuine smile that reflected something deeper than acceptance. It reflected recognition, homecoming, the rediscovery of something that had been missing their entire lives. The revelation that would ultimately separate Tracy and Ronnie temporarily because the family dynamics would need to be carefully navigated. And Ronnie would still need to process this overwhelming truth, also opened the possibility of something neither had experienced in 50 years, knowing where they came from. The Quartermain mansion, which had been the source of so much drama and conflict, would become something else as well, a place where a lost sister finally came home. Even if home meant learning to know each other all over again, building a relationship from the foundation of shared blood and shared history, connecting them across the vast gulf of 5 decades of separation and finally making them whole. Next, we dive deep into the electrifying buzz surrounding Brad Cooper's jaw-dropping return to Port Charles that promises to rattle Britt Westburn to her core. As whispers of Brad's reappearance echo through the town, fans are on the edge of their seats, anticipating a whirlwind of intrigue and betrayal that could upend Britt's fragile new life. This isn't just a casual comeback. It's a storm brewing with hidden agendas, old wounds reopening, and alliances shifting in ways no one saw coming, all tied to the dramatic undercurrents we've glimpsed in recent episodes. In the gripping November 3rd installment, the air in Port Charles thickened with relentless chatter about the elusive Brad, pulling even the most steadfast characters into speculation. Elizabeth Baldwin, ever the sharp observer, cornered both Portia Robinson and Britt during a tense hospital exchange, probing for any signs of Brad's whereabouts since he's vanished into thin air. Cutting off communication with his once unbreakable confidant, Portia, still nursing her own family secrets, dodged the questions with vague unease, while Britt's face paled at the mention, her mind racing back to their inseparable days of mischief and loyalty that once defined their friendship. Adding layers to the mystery, Elizabeth revealed snippets of overheard gossip from nurses' stations, suggesting Brad might be entangled in underground dealings far from the Quartermain estate, perhaps even rubbing shoulders with shady investors who lured him away with promises of quick fortunes. This barrage of dialogue wasn't random filler. It was a deliberate build-up, signaling that Brad's shadow looms larger than ever, ready to crash back into the spotlight and disrupt the delicate balance Britt has fought so hard to maintain. Britt's inner turmoil took center stage as she confided her fears, wondering aloud if Brad had truly moved on, deliberately shutting her out after years of shared secrets and narrow escapes from danger. Her voice cracked with vulnerability, recalling how they once navigated the criminal underbelly of Port Charles together, from forging documents to dodging Faison's vengeful pursuits. Bonds forged in the heat of survival. Elizabeth, drawing from her own history of reinventions, gently pushed back, proposing that Brad's sudden inheritance a mysterious windfall from an anonymous benefactor tied to his late father's hidden assets might have propelled him toward a clean slate, free from the ghosts of past cons and heartbreaks. She painted a vivid picture of Brad, perhaps lounging in a sun-drenched coastal hideaway, unaware of Britt's miraculous resurrection from her staged death, surrounded by new acquaintances who know nothing of his Port Charles baggage. Yet, this speculation only heightened the suspense as the camera lingered on Britt's haunted expression, hinting at the emotional reckoning awaiting her if Brad materializes without warning. The foreshadowing couldn't be clearer. With such heavy emphasis on Brad across multiple scenes, his triumphant or treacherous return to Port Charles feels inescapably close, potentially unfolding as early as the November 6th episode when an undisclosed familiar face storms back into town. Fall previews had already teased this bombshell, but the intensified hype transforms it from rumor to riveting reality, with writers layering clues like breadcrumbs leading straight to Brad's doorstep. Imagine the chaos. Brad stepping off a private jet at the harbor, his signature smirk hiding layers of calculated moves, only to stumble upon Britt in the most unexpected setting, perhaps during a clandestine meeting at the Metro Court where she's dodging creditors. Show insiders have hinted at a cascade of returns this sweepstakes period, and Brad fits the bill perfectly, his name echoing like a siren call amid the escalating tensions in the Casa Dini and Corinthos circles. This timing aligns with broader story arcs, where old allies resurface to exploit current vulnerabilities, making Brad's arrival a pivotal spark that could ignite dormant feuds long buried under layers of feigned civility. When Brad finally confronts Britt, the shockwaves will ripple far beyond their personal history, forcing her to confront the pain she inflicted by faking her own death and leaving him to mourn in solitude. Britt's elaborate hoax, complete with forged autopsy reports and a decoy body washed ashore, was meant to shield him from her Huntington's nightmare. But now she dreads his reaction. Will he see it as ultimate betrayal or a selfless act of love? In a heartfelt twist, flashbacks could intercut their reunion, showing tender moments from their youth, like late-night confessions over stolen champagne at the Haunted Star, underscoring the depth of their connection that time and deception couldn't fully erase. Brad, hardened by his own parade of errors from tampering with paternity tests to his ill-fated schemes with Nell, might approach with a mix of resentment and relief, his eyes searching hers for the spark that once lit up their rebellious adventures. Unlike the unyielding Liesel Obrecht, whose grudge-holding is legendary after Britt's deceptions, Brad's forgiving nature could shine through, perhaps softened by his time away, where he reflected on losses, including the surrogate family he built only to watch it crumble. Beyond the heartfelt reunion, Brad's scheming prowess is poised to unleash a torrent of shady maneuvers aimed at liberating Britt from the clutches of the menacing Jen Sidwell, whose web of threats has her walking on eggshells. Sidwell, the slick financier with ties to international black market dealings, has already proven his ruthlessness by framing Selena Wu's crew for the devastating Charlie's Pub blaze, a calculated arson that scorched alliances and forced Selena to flee to distant shores. Brad, catching wind of this through underground channels during his exile, maybe via encrypted messages from old contacts in the waterfront dives, could devise an intricate counterplot involving planted evidence and double agents to expose Sidwell's facade. Picture Brad rallying discreet support from unlikely quarters, like a reformed Cyrus Renault pulling strings from prison, all to dismantle Sidwell's hold and restore Britt's autonomy in a town that thrives on such high-stakes gambles. His ingenuity, honed from years of navigating Port Charles' moral gray zones, might even incorporate tech-savvy hacks, such as intercepting Sidwell's communications to reveal embezzlement trails leading back to European syndicates. Compounding the drama, Brad's protective instincts will likely extend to shielding Lucas Jones from the perilous orbit of Marco Rios and his tyrannical father, a duo whose criminal empire threatens to ensnare the vulnerable doctor in a vortex of violence. Lucas, still recovering from his accident and grappling with fragmented memories, has unwittingly drawn close to Marco through shared community outreach programs at the clinic, oblivious to the Rios family's smuggling operations hidden behind charitable fronts. Brad, viewing Lucas as the son he never fully had, might orchestrate a subtle extraction plan, relocating him under the guise of a medical conference abroad while weaving in diversions like anonymous tips to the PCPD that spotlight Rios Sr.'s arms trafficking without implicating innocents. This multi-threaded conspiracy could intersect with larger narratives, such as Sonny's ongoing turf wars, where Brad brokers uneasy truces to buy time, his charisma disarming foes in smoke-filled backrooms. The beauty of Brad's return lies in these intersecting motives: personal redemption, loyal friendships, and a dash of opportunistic revenge, all converging to reshape Port Charles' power dynamics in unpredictable ways. Next, we will learn about the dramatic twist where Carly Corinthos might unexpectedly soften her stance toward the enigmatic Jack Brennan, even as she schemes for his complete undoing alongside the cunning Valentine Casadini. In the ever-turbulent world of Port Charles, where alliances shatter like glass under pressure, Carly's journey from fierce protector to possible redeemer adds layers of intrigue that could redefine her relationships forever. Fans have watched Carly navigate heartbreak and betrayal with her signature fire, but this potential pivot hints at a deeper evolution, one that challenges her impulsive nature and forces her to confront the complexities of loyalty in a city rife with secrets. The spark for Carlisle's brewing conflict ignited when Jason Morgan, ever the steadfast confidant, pulled her aside to reveal a bombshell. Jack Brennan had secretly enlisted her daughter, Jocelyn Jacks, into the shadowy ranks of the WSB. Picture the scene: Jason, with his gravelly voice laced with concern, describing how Brennan approached Jocelyn in her most vulnerable moment, right after the devastating loss of her boyfriend. Dex Heller, whose life was cruelly cut short in a hail of gunfire during a botched operation. Carly, known for her explosive reactions, didn't lash out as expected. Instead, she absorbed the news like a storm cloud gathering force, her mind racing through the implications. This revelation wasn't just about betrayal, it exposed how deeply Jocelyn had been drawn into a world of espionage, high-stakes missions, and moral gray areas that mirror the dangers Carly has long tried to shield her from. Adding a new layer, imagine Carly flashing back to her own brushes with the WSB during past crises, like the time she uncovered hidden files on Sonny's rivals. Realizing that Jack's recruitment might echo her own hidden strengths, planting the first seeds of reluctant empathy. As Carlisle's fury simmered, she turned to Valentine Casadini, the silver-tongued mastermind whose vendettas often leave trails of chaos in Port Charles. Their alliance formed in dimly lit corners of the Metro Court, where whispers of revenge plots unfolded over glasses of aged whiskey. Carly, still reeling from Jack's deception, outlined a meticulous plan to dismantle his empire, starting with leaked intel on his WSB connections and escalating to fabricated scandals that could tarnish his reputation beyond repair. Valentine, with his aristocratic smirk, added flourishes like anonymous tips to federal authorities and subtle manipulations of Brennan's financials, drawing from his own history of corporate sabotage against the Casadini legacy. Yet, beneath this collaborative scheming, Carlisle's thoughts kept drifting to Jocelyn, whose involvement complicated the blueprint. Inventing a fresh angle. Consider how Carly discovered a hidden WSB gadget in Jocelyn's apartment, a sleek communicator device etched with Brennan's initials, prompting her to question if Jack's influence was purely manipulative or genuinely empowering for her grieving daughter. This discovery deepened Carlisle's internal tug-of-war, blending rage with a flicker of understanding that Jack might have offered Jocelyn a purpose amid her sorrow. Surprisingly, Carly held back from confronting Jocelyn head-on, a departure from her usual confrontational style that has defined her as Port Charles' unyielding matriarch. Instead, she observed her daughter's resolve with a newfound respect, recognizing the fire in Jocelyn's eyes as a reflection of her own indomitable spirit. Jocelyn, fresh from a harrowing undercover assignment that masqueraded as a carefree European vacation, had slipped away to Croatia under the guise of a solo trip, only to dive into a web of international intrigue involving arms dealers and encrypted data drops. Carly, piecing together the truth from Jocelyn's evasive stories of beach relaxation and cultural explorations, saw the scars both literal, like a faint bruise from a close-quarters scuffle, and emotional, from nights spent evading capture. In a heartfelt exchange over coffee at Kelly's Diner, Carly listened as Jocelyn poured out her fears and ambitions, her voice steady despite the tears. This subdued Carly, far from the fiery defender who once stormed the LQ boardrooms, marked a pivotal shift. She began to see Jocelyn not as a child needing protection, but as a young woman forging her destiny in a world that demands courage. To expand this moment, envision Carly sharing a rare vulnerability from her past, her own secret alliances during the Metro Court hostage crisis, bonding mother and daughter in a way that humanizes Carlisle's growth. At the heart of Jocelyn's transformation lies her unyielding commitment to the greater good, a path she treads in tribute to Dex Heller, whose tragic and left an indelible void. Dex, the rugged operative with a code of honor, had always spoken of safeguarding the innocent, his words now echoing in Jocelyn's every decision as she trains in surveillance tactics and ethical dilemmas at WSB headquarters. Devastated by his murder envisioned here as a sniper's bullet during a rainy night stakeout in Quantico, Jocelyn channeled her grief into action, viewing her role as an agent as a living memorial to his legacy. She confided in Carly about late-night strategy sessions where instructors praised her quick thinking, reminiscent of Dex's street-smart instincts, and how each mission feels like reclaiming a piece of the justice he fought for. This dedication isn't mere rebellion, it's Jocelyn's way of combating the helplessness that gripped her after the funeral, where she stood graveside vowing to continue his fight against corruption. Carly, witnessing this passion, grappled with her instincts. Part of her wanted to pull Jocelyn back to safety, perhaps enrolling her in local community college courses on business like her own ventures. But another part admired the heroism blooming in her daughter. The million-dollar question swirling in Port Charles gossip circles is whether Carly will embrace this maturity and grant Jocelyn the autonomy to chart her own course, free from maternal interference. Historically, Carly's overprotectiveness has led to rifts, like her meddling in Sonny's affairs or clashes with Michael over corporate decisions. But signs point to a breakthrough. Better late than never. As Carly might quip, this could be her chance to evolve beyond the tempestuous reactions that have defined her romances and friendships. Inventing a subplot. Suppose Carly confides in Nina Reeves during a tense Metro Court lunch, admitting how Jocelyn's choice reminds her of her own youthful defiance against the Quartermaines, fostering a rare moment of self-reflection that propels her forward. If Carly sustains this poise, it could mend family fractures and even position her as Jocelyn's quiet supporter, attending WASB briefings incognito or offering logistical advice from her hotelier expertise. In an intriguing twist of perspective, Carly might reframe Jack Brennan's actions as a catalyst for Jocelyn's healing, allowing her to step out of the shadows of Dex's death and into a brighter, more empowered future. Before the WSB bombshell shattered their bond, Carly and Jack shared stolen moments of genuine connection, late-night walks along the docks where he revealed fragments of his mysterious past as a reformed operative, or cozy dinners where his charm melted her defenses. This history could fuel Carly's rationalization. Jack didn't exploit Jocelyn's vulnerability, he provided structure and purpose, much like how therapy sessions helped Carly process her own losses after Morgan's passing. Though a stretch amid the deception, it's plausible in soap opera logic perhaps. Carly uncovers evidence that Jack mentored Jocelyn with Dex's own training manuals, turning foe into unwitting ally. This mindset shift would highlight Carly's capacity for forgiveness, a trait she's wielded selectively, like reconciling with Sonny post-divorce, and could ripple through her alliances, softening her edge in upcoming confrontations. The plot thickens further when Valentin Casadini injects his calculated input into the revenge scheme, potentially tipping Carly's delicate balance. As their plan advances and Vision staged leaks to the invader, painting Jack as a rogue agent involved in offshore money laundering, Valentin's pragmatic ruthlessness might clash with Carly's emerging doubts. With his track record of outmaneuvering foes, like Anna Devane, Valentin could push for escalation, such as hacking Jack's safe house communications to expose vulnerabilities. Yet, if the operation veers toward catastrophe, say Jack sustaining life-threatening injuries during a WSB raid gone wrong, perhaps an explosion in a warehouse filled with classified artifacts, Carly might confront the human cost. In this invented high-drama scenario, she'd rush to his bedside in a sterile Geneva clinic, haunted by visions of his protective gestures toward Jocelyn, leading to a raw confession of her conflicted heart. This wake-up call could finally compel Carly to shed her adolescent-like impulsivity, embracing accountability akin to her growth during the Casadini Island ordeal, and opting for dialogue over destruction. Ultimately, as the dust settles on these machinations, the fate of Carly and Jack's tangled dynamic hangs in the balance, inviting fans to ponder the redemptive power of understanding in Port Charles. Will Carly's vendetta crumble under the weight of maternal love and personal revelation, or will it forge ahead with unyielding force? GH enthusiasts, chime in below. Does Jack Brennan truly merit Carly's mercy after weaving such intricate webs of secrecy and opportunity? Your thoughts could shape the next wave of speculation in this riveting saga.